welcome everyone to another episode of Masonite API development series, and I'm Yurashrest. So in our previous episode we talked about migrations, models, and database headers and factories. So in this tutorial we are going to talk about routing, controllers, and few more stuffs. Okay, so routing is one of the important part of any framework or any application in which we are going to develop a web application or website. So I'm here in Masonite's official documentation, and here you can see the bunch of options that you can use. Also you can pass in middleware of your own if you have, and also you can name the route. You can pass the parameter here in this manner. Also you can provide domains. We do have route compilers, so if you want to enforce this param to be string, then this is how you can do this. We also can group the route. So in route group option you can provide your prefix, middlewares, or provide name and also domain. So these are the options that you can use in routes. So in our project we do have few models: block, category, and user. So let's start by creating few routes for all of these models so that we can use those routes to access the data that we have, modify, update, create, delete, etc. Okay, so I'm gonna put some comment here and saying like it's a route, blocks route. So here let's get blocks, and then we are gonna use blocks controller at index. Okay, so here we are using blocks, and here we are using blocks controller, and this is the class, and this one is the method of that class. So if you visit this page, then this will try to get the contents from inside this method of blocks controller. So we do not have blocks controller right now, so we have to create that. Let's see if we have any option to create controllers or not. So in order to do that, Python craft help. So now here in the list you can see we do have this controller command which creates new controller class. Let's do that. So Python craft controller blocks controller, and here you can see we do have blocks controller. You are seeing this message because previously we didn't have this blocks controller. Now we do have that one. So let's remove the default method that we have here and create the new one, def index, and it's gonna take self, and let's return foo var. And here in web.py for blocks we are using blocks controllers index method, and we do have blocks controllers index method. So let's go to our browser and try to visit this page. So before going there, let's start our server, and then here in browser localhost 8000 blocks. Now you can see we do have this foo var. Perfect. So I'm gonna open Postman, and in Postman let's try to run all those routes from here and try to insert contents also. Because this is API development series, I'm gonna move towards APIs one after another episode, so stay tuned and watch carefully. Okay, I'm gonna create one folder first, and I'm gonna name that blocks API. So inside blocks API let's add a request, and here get all blocks, and here localhost, let's call it http localhost 8000, and this one will be the blocks. If you run, then you can see we have this foobar. Perfect. So let's return proper value here. Previously we talked about model also, so here let's try to grab all the blocks that we have. So block dot all, and let's import this one. If you don't see the autocomplete option, then you can use app.models.blog import blog. So now you can directly return blocks. For now we'll update or modify the response if we ever need that, but for now I'm returning everything that I have in block table. And let's do this. So right now we do have nothing. I think the proper way of doing, returning response, is to use a response that you can find inside controller. Here let's open that up, and you can see here we do have self, view, and inside dependency injection you can use request, and also you can use response to return the response. Okay, so you can go through all this documentation, but for our tutorial I'm going to show you how you can do that. Here let's use response, and let's import that response from Masonite, from masonite.request import request, and also from masonite.response import response. Perfect. Now what you can do is return response.json, and here let's call it data and put in blocks. Now this blocks is a collection, so if you try to run this route, then you are going to get issues, because we can't actually return the collection from JSON. You have to serialize that. So here if you go, then object of type collection is not JSON serializable. So what you can do is dot serialize. Perfect. Now let's go back to our route and refresh again. So here you can see we do have this data, and we don't have any items in blocks. So now let's create another one. Let's duplicate this one, and here let's call it post, and we are going to create new blog. Perfect. Save it, and inside body let's go to form data to input some values there, and let's create route for that. So route.post blocks. If you post on that blocks, then we are going to call box controllers store for method, and let's create store self. We're gonna need request to get all the data that we input from form, and also the response to return the response value. And first of all, let's call it data equals to request.input request.only. So you might want to grab the required parameters here only here. So in order to do that, we can use request only, or if you want to let's do this by returning everything request dot all. So you can find what we have here. So I'm returning everything that are in request. So if we submit the form, then you can see all these values here inside a request. So if you go to post blocks, then we are calling store method, and from store method we are returning everything that we have in form. So let's do this. Now we have error missing CSRF token. If you use APIs, then there is no way we can use CSRF token. So for now we can simply disable that. So we can do that from middleware. Here we have verify CSRF token, and let's put asterisk there to not use verify CSRF token in any of our routes. So let's send. Now we do have this response. Let's put name here and say, or let's call it foo, and this one is bar. Send. Now you can see the key and value here. Perfect. So let's go to our blog model and see what do we need here. We need title, so let's call it first blog, and we need slog, let's call it first blog, and we need excerpt. Okay, let's go here and copy this one for now. Perfect, and paste. And after excerpt we need content, and content is the text, so we can put larger contents there, content, and paste it here. Okay, now what else do we have in our blog? So we need user ID. So right now I don't know if I have user in our table, but for now let's just give one for now. And here in status, let's check if we have enum or a string in status. So here in blocks we have status with draft and published. Okay, so let's call it draft. Perfect. Before that, let's check if we have user or not. Okay, so we can do that by running tinker, or also verifying if that content is in our database by visiting to our database client. But for now, Python craft tinker, and we can use users equals to user.count, print users. So we do have 50 users. Okay, so let's run this user dot find for id 1, print user dot name. So looks like we do have that user. So perfect. So I'm using 1, and let's hit send. Now you can see we do have all these items. So what if somebody tries to put some random stuff, let's say foo and bar? So send. So now we also do have that foo and bar value, and here inside box controller, if we store that in some variable and try to create, so blog.create data, then you already know that we have this unwanted data here, right? So in that scenario, what you can do is you can use only request.only title slog excerpt content user ID status, and let's hit it or save it first and send. Now we do have all the key value pairs that we posted from here. Okay, perfect. Now we do have everything. So let's create blog, and blog.create, you can use that create method to create data. We can pass in these dictionary values, and let's return response.json blog, or let's call it data, and let's serialize the blog because you already know we can't actually return the collection or model directly if you are inside JSON. So let's give message, and blog created successfully. Perfect. Now by default this will return 200 status code, but in case of this store we're gonna return 201 created status code. So let's go here and try to get all blocks once again, send. So you can see we do not have any blocks, and right now we are here inside create new blog API, and let's hit that. So now you have data, title, content, and it says blog created successfully. So let's go back to our get all blocks, send. Now we do have this one blog. perfect. So let's duplicate this block and let's call it update block, and this is going to update block, and we are going to pass some parameters here. So this will be param. So what this URL means is we are going to update block which has ID 1. So instead of post, let's do put, and inside body we have everything. So let's go back to our routes and let's create route.put, and then we have blocks and it ID. So we are going to get parameter here, and we are using update method for update method in block controller. So let's go to block controller and def update self. We need request and also response, and let's copy everything, and let's request for title slug accept everything, and also we are going to get ID, and let's try to return ID first. Okay, so return ID, and let's see if that's working or not. Put send. So as you can see, we do have this one value here. If I pass in 11 then send, then you can see we do have 11. Perfect. So it's working perfectly fine. So here I want to show you one more thing. Right now we are using ID here. So if you want a string only, then this says route not found. Again, let's do A and send. Now because this is a string, it's working. So we are going to take ID, which is int, and blocks controller update and send. So now we do have 1. So inside block controllers, let's go and try to find block. So we are trying to get the block which has ID this one. So if not block, if we don't have block, then let's return response.json message block not found. Perfect. And let's put in status code 44 or 204 or whichever you like. So if we do have block, then let's try to update block with the data that were passed from this form, and we are updating data. So once that's done, let's uncomment this part and return the updated block, and block updated successfully. So this one is the message for that. So let's do send. Now you can see we do have this one, but if you pass 11 and send, then you can see block not found with the status code 44. Let's try to update this one. Previously it was draft. Let's change that to published and send. Now you can see the status here, updated status here, but it is already updated. This function didn't reload the refresh the content. There might be option to do that as well, but it's okay. We don't have to worry about that here. If you actually try to list all the blocks, then you can see the status is published already. So let's go and try to create another block with a new title and new slug. So I'll remove this unwanted field here, click send, and then now we have the second block also. So if you try to list out blocks, then you do have these two blocks. Okay, and let's create another method which is gonna take self and ID, and also request response. And now let's copy these codes here. So we are trying to find the block If we don't find any block, then we are going to return block not found. If we have block, then let's do block.delete and return response.json and then message block deleted successfully with status code up to 01 and perfect. So let's create route for that. Let's duplicate this one and do delete here, and we are passing id which is integer and here destroy because we do have this destroy method name there. And let's duplicate this update block section and let's call it delete block, and instead of put let's use delete because the because we are using delete here for this route, and we don't actually need body here, so you can do none. And let's pass in 12 and see what happens. Send. So now you can see block not found, but if you pass in 1 then click on send, then you can see block deleted successfully. So in our this route we do have 2 blocks. If you refresh now, then 1 block will be gone and all that left is the remaining 1. So perfect, block API is working fine. And let's remove all this. So this is how you can use blocks. We can do the same thing for controllers too. Let's copy everything, and I mean category, not controller, categories route. So I'm gonna replace these with categories and these with category block, I mean category controller. Let's create that controller. Let's exit from here first, and python craft controller category controller. Okay, so category controller is created here. Let's copy everything that we had here in blocks, so it will be actually faster, and paste it here. So let's import response from Masonite response. Let's import request from request. So request, perfect. This one will be response, and instead of block we'll have category, and instead of blocks we'll have categories. Let's import that name here from app.models.category, import category, and looks like everything is okay. So instead of block let's use category here. Perfect. And let's open up category model to see what fields do we actually need. So we need name, slug, and status. So here instead of all these items we need name, slug, and status. Perfect. Okay, let's duplicate this API, duplicate, and let's call it categories API. Perfect. And instead of get all blocks, this will be categories, and this will be categories. Send. Now we do not have any category there yet. Create new category, and this will be categories. Mistake, categories. So this one. Perfect. All we need is name, slug, status. That's why let's remove these items from here, and now we do have name, slug, and status will be draft. Okay, perfect. So let's hit send. Okay, so this worked. One category is created. So if you go to okay, so now it's working, and this is working perfectly fine. And let's delete the blog, not blog but categories, and instead of delete blog, let's call it category here. Perfect. And inside our route, this one is set up properly. Right now we do have two categories. Let's try to remove category 1 and see. Send, category deleted successfully. Let's hit it send, and we do have this second category now. Perfect. And looks like this also worked perfectly fine. Now we'll talk about relationship, not in this video but another one. But you got idea on how you can use controllers to create these methods, and which will be linked to the routes that we have or that we create here. Okay, so now we can actually list all the contents, we can create new content, we can update content, we can delete content. If you want to view the content, then let's say you want to view the blocks, then in that case route.get, and we're gonna use blocks with id int and block controller at so we are going to use so method inside block controller, and let's create so method here def so, which is gonna take self and also id request response, and from here let's copy this part, and if we don't have block, then we are going to return block not found, otherwise return response json, and inside data we can pass block serialized. And let's go back to our blocks API and duplicate one block API, and instead of get all blocks, let's call it get block detail, and this is gonna take one extra parameter, and let's hit send. Okay, so something is not working here. Let's restart the server, and looks like we do have issue here. So what actually is the issue? Okay, there was a typo there, that's why it was not working. Let's restart the server again and see. We do not have block controller but blocks controller, so this should work. And let's go back to our API and hit. Now you can see we do not have that block. Let's list out all the blocks that we have and see. So we do have this block, but for that block we do have id 2, so let's put id 2 here and send. Now we do have this block detail here. So this is how route works. You can actually go to this routing section and also controller sections to learn more about this. So if you have any questions related to routing and controller, then you can ask me in comment below. I'll answer all the questions that you have related to routing and controllers. Also you can pass middlewares, but I'll talk about middleware and other stuffs in authentication and other stuff in few other episodes. Today's episode was all about routing and a controller, the integration between those two things, and I successfully showed how these two things work properly. So this is it for this video. We'll talk about more other things in other episodes, so stay tuned guys. So if you like the video, like it, subscribe it if you are not subscribed it, or comment. I'm open for your suggestions. If you have any suggestions for me, then you can, I appreciate all your suggestions also. So thank you guys, stay tuned, and hope to see you in next video. Bye.